All right.
Today's daf is daf Tzadi Vav, and we'll begin with the Mishnah on daf Tzadi Vav, and we're going to have a twofold, or if not, maybe even more than that, machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim, and there's Rabbi Meir. We'll see if the Chacham and Rabbi Meir are the same. And the question is exactly where the Gid Anosha is. Like the Gid Anosha starts at a point which is in the round part of the Yerech, and then it goes down, down, down. So the question is, do you have to go below the round point of the Yerech all the way down, or just take off the surface level of the round part? That's the extent of Gid Anosha. So the Mishnah records the following machlokas. Hanotel Gid Hanoshe. The question is whether or not you have to remove the entire Gid Anosha, and the entire Gid Anosha from top to bottom is prohibited. And the Chachamim here, which is the Tanakama of the Mishnah, says that Hanotel Gid Anosha tzarich she'itol es kulo. He has to remove everything. In other words, when you look at the thigh, you have to extract the Gid Anosha all the way down, and you have to like sort of dig it out. We had this before on Daf Sadi Beis. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Kedei L'Kayim Bo Mitzvahs Netila. Rabbi Yehuda says you don't have to dig deep down and extract the Gid Anosha wherever it is. You know, the Gid Anosha is sort of like embedded in the flesh and the meat of the animal anatomically. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, all you have to do is you have to remove that portion of the Gid Anosha that is above the meat, but not that which is embedded lower down in the meat. So you don't have to dig down. You just sort of like remove that surface Gid Anosha that is on the surface of that rounded part of the flesh of the yerech, of the thigh. But again, it's not that which is embedded in the yerech, in the meat of the flesh of the animal, but rather that which is on top. It's sort of like separated and on top of the flesh, and that's sufficient. And anything beyond that, in terms of the Gid Anosha that's lower down, embedded in the flesh, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's mutter even midrabanan, meaning it could be that on a doraisa level, that's what we're going to see in Asugya, even the Chachamim agreed to Rabbi Yehuda that the part of the Gid Anosha below the surface that digs deep into and is embedded into the flesh, that's not osir. The Rabbanan, and that's the Shita here, the Tanakama, Tzarich she'itol es kulo, they require that we avoid any part of the Gid Anosha, even that part which is embedded in the basar. And Rabbi Yehuda says the Rabbanan never went that far. So therefore, it's going to turn out that the machlokas between the Rabbanan and Rabbi Yehuda is only on a Rabbanan level. Now we have another machlokas, ha'ochel migid hanosha kizayis is sofeg arboim. No, that's not a good idea. Okay. Sorry, I appreciate it, but no, there's no, it's not even a habit.
Yeah, just need a sitter.
Yeah.
No need a medicine.
Yeah. Okay, then. So, what happens in a case where he ate a kizayis worth of the Gid Anosha, but he didn't eat the complete Gid Anosha? And the Mishnah records that it doesn't matter whether you eat the entire Gid Anosha from beginning to end, or as long as you eat a kizayis worth of the Gid Anosha, that's the shir v'achila in kol kula, and that's going to generate malchus, despite the fact that you didn't complete the process of eating the entire Gid Anosha, but you ate a kizayis worth. Now, what happens if you eat the entire Gid Anosha, but it turns out that it's not even a kizayis? That's going to be a machlokes. The Mishnah says that acholo v'ein bo kizayis, he ate the entire Gitanosha from top to bottom, but there's no kizayis. So here we get into the sugya that we mentioned earlier a few days ago called birya, that when you eat a part of, let's say, a limb of a body of an animal, but you ate the entire limb, that's called a birya. It's like an entity unto itself. It has chashivus as if it were a kizayis, even though it's not a kizayis. So there are two chumras now, if we summarize, that are recorded in the Mishnah. Chumra number one is that you don't have to eat the entire gid, because you'd be chayav with a kizayis. And chumra number two is that if you did eat the entire gid, then you don't have to eat kizayis. So there are one of two conditions that have to be checked off in your checkoff box in order to be chayav malchus. And either one is sufficient to generate malchus. Either you ate the entire gid, and then you don't have to eat a kizayis, or even if you ate part of the gid, but you ate a kizayis volume of the gid, then you get malchus. Achal mizeh kizayis umizeh kizayis. Now, remember that there's a Gitanosha on the right thigh and a Gitanosha on the left side. The Tanakhama's view that's being formulated here, we'll soon see Rabbi Yehuda's disagreement, is that you're chayav for both the Gitanosha on the right side and the Gitanosha on the left side. So therefore, if you ate both, and assuming you ate them entirely, or you ate a kizayis worth, even if you didn't eat entirely, then you get two sets of malchus, and that's called, in the language of the Mishnah, Sofik Shmonim. It gets 80 malchus. Again, it's not really 80, it's 78, but 80. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Eino Sofik El Arbaim. Rabbi Yehuda holds that only the right side, on the right side of the thigh, there's a Gitanosha that the Torah prohibited, and for eating that, you get malchus. But on the left side, that's not Gitanosha. The Torah didn't prohibit that, and therefore you only get one set of malchus. The Gemara says, Bar Piyuli, I never heard of this Amora here, Havikoi Kame de Shmuel v'Komenakir Atam. It could be that this Bar Piyuli was not a great scholar, although we'll see soon that Shmuel went out of his way to try to justify his actions, but he was in charge of getting rid of and removing the Gitanosha. And he did this as a representative of Shmuel. Shmuel was actually there watching the way he got rid of and removed the Gitanosha. Havika goyimle. Goyimle means he only took off the surface level of the gid, but he didn't dig down deeply beneath the surface. Amalei, and Shmuel says, what's going on over here? Chus beit fei. Chus means to dig down and see where you could discover and remove that part of the gid that's below the surface, that's embedded in the flesh, because of the Tanakhama, the Chacham of our Mishnah. Hashtalo chazisech, had it not been that it was Min HaShamayim that I was here to watch the way you did an insufficient removal of the gid, Sfisali Yisura, you would have been feeding me gid anosha. So thank God that I was there to see that you didn't do the adequate job. Irsas. At this point, Bar Piyul starts shaking. He's trembling. Nafal sakina miyoda, and the knife that he used to take out to excise the gid anosha fell from his hand. He was so freaked out, as we would say in today's parlance. But Shmuel came to comfort him and calm him down. Omer leilo tisras, you don't have to get all freaked out about it, because the ori loch, apparently your rebbeim taught you ki Rabbi Yehuda ori loch. They taught you the halacha like Rabbi Yehuda, and he says the gid anosha is only that which is on the surface level of the flesh, but not that which goes deep down and is embedded in the flesh. Omer Rav Sheshes, my deshakel bar piyule da oraisa l'Rabbi Yehuda, that which Bar Piyuli removed of the gid anosha, that surface level, that's according to Rabbi Yehuda exactly what you have to take out deoraisa. Now, what is Rav Sheshes trying to tell me over here? So the Gemara analyzes and says, Michlal is Rav Sheshes implying that the Shire de Rabbanon Rabbi Yehuda, that Rabbi Yehuda has two levels of an Isur Giranosha. He's got a Doraisa level, a full-fledged violation of the Torah law of Giranosha, Al Kain Lo Yochlu Giranosha Bnei Yisrael. And he has another level, which is deep down, and that's the Rabbanon level. So Rav Sheshes says that can't be what Rabbi Yehuda was. I'm sorry, that can't be what Rav Sheshes was saying about Rabbi Yehuda, because El Di Orile Kimana Orile. I mean, if that's what Rabbi Yehuda holds, then what did Shmuel say to Bar Piuli to comfort him? And he said, you know what, you're doing it the way Rabbi Yehuda would advocate. What are you talking about? Even Rabbi Yehuda, according to the way we're reading Rav Sheshes now, would agree that at least on a Darabana level, you have to get the deep down, dig deep down in order to get rid of that which the Rabbana consider as Giranasha. Elam Rav Sheshes, and now Rav Sheshes clarifies his original statement, his comment, and he says, "My deshakal b'piuli doraisa, who my deshayir Rabbanan l'Rabbi Meir." Rabbi Meir, who's the Tanakam of our Mishnah, holds that you got to dig deep down to get out the Giranosh that's embedded in the flesh below the surface, because the Rabbanan prohibited it. And therefore, what Shmuel was nervous about is, had he not been there to see and chapped it, he would have been eating that which Rabbi Meir, the Tanakam of our Mishnah, would have prohibited on a Dorabbanan level, and he would have been violating Dorabbanan. To eat Rabbi Yehuda fil b'Rabbanan shari. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda holds that the Rabbanan never went that step further to prohibit the below surface Giranosha that's embedded in the flesh. So it comes out that on a Doraisa level they both agree, Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanakh, meaning Rabbi Meir. And the Torah only defines Giranosha as that which is on the top surface level, but Rabbi Meir, who's the Tanakh of Mishnah, went a step further, and therefore he says that the Rabbanan prohibited even that which is embedded in the thigh of the yerech of the animal, and therefore the Mishnah says, "Anotul Giranosha tzarich sheitol es kulo." He's got to dig deep below the surface in order to avoid Giranosha d'Rabbanan. Okay. Now, the Mishnah says that if you ate a kizayis' worth of part of the Giranosha, you get malchus. If you ate the entire Giranosha, then you get malchus, even if you didn't eat a kizayis. Omar Shmuel, lo asra Torah, ela sha'al hakaf bilvad. Now, the Torah says that the Giranosha is located on the kaf hayerech. They could have just said the word yerech, the thigh, and that would have been sufficient to identify the location of the Giranosha, but it says kaf. The word kaf means a spoon, sort of like a rounded part. And anatomically, the Giranosha extends from the spinal column all the way down to the bottom of the leg of the animal. However, Shmuel is deriving from the word kaf hayerech that only that which rests directly on that part of the flesh which looks like a spoon-shaped flesh, and it surrounds the upper portion of the thigh bone, that's what the Torah prohibited. So apparently, Shmuel is saying that if you go down the length of the Giranosha all the way down to the leg, you've already passed that round part. So if you recall, when we started Perek Giranosha, there was a diagram here. Let's see if I can find it. Just 1 second. Again, this might not work, but if you take a look at this diagram, so I'm not sure what you're able to see and what you're not able to see, but you'll see that the Gid Anosha goes all the way down. Do you see it? But there's a part of the flesh of the animal that is kind of spoon-shaped. And Shmuel is telling us that when the Torah prohibited the Gid Anosha, it only prohibited that part. Now, again, this has nothing to do with the other machlokes, the controversy that we had, as far as that part of the Gid Anosha that's embedded inside the flesh, whether that's considered Gid Anosha. But we said that's only D'Rabbanan. But in any event, Shmuel is pointing out that although the Gid Anosha goes all the way down to the legs, but nevertheless the Torah only prohibited that part which is called al kaf hayerech. Weiter. Omar Rav Papa Ketanoi. Shmuel is getting involved in a great controversy amongst the Tanoim, because we have a brisa that says, "Acholo v'ein bo kezayis chayev." Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad sheyehei bo kezayis. Okay, so we have machlokes in this brisa about the issue of birya. In other words, whether or not you're chayev for Gid Anosha if you eat the entirety without eating a kezayis worth, whether you're chayev mishum birya, and that's called achol v'yein bo kezayis. According to Tanakama, chayev. Rabbi Yehuda says no. There's no din of birya. The Torah says that the Isur is an Isur Achila, and whenever the Torah uses the word Achila, argues Rabbi Yehuda, Achila means by definition a kezayis. So that it's true that if the Torah had not utilized the word Achila, then I could have argued that Gid Anosha is an entity unto itself, it's a birya, you don't have to eat a kezayis. But since the Torah prohibited with Achila, therefore you require a kezayis. Now, it's very interesting that Rav Papa says that this brisa, recording a controversy about whether or not a Gid Anosha is a birya with the special dinim of a birya or not, what does that have to do with Shmuel's statement of darshaning kaf, that kaf means only that part of the Gid Anosha that's up there in the kaf? So for that, we have to see the way Rav Papa develops this machlokes recorded in the brisa with regard to birya. My time of the Rabbanan. First of all, let's establish that which is straightforward and that which is simple. Namely, the Rabbanan say Yechai for less than a kezayis if you eat the entirety of the Gid Anosha. That's because birya is considered an entire birya. And the source for the halacha birya has to do with shkotzim v'ramosim. If you eat, for example, a nemola, again, I'm talking about deliberately. I don't know why, but again, there are countries where they would eat it anyway. So even though the nemola is very, very small, the Torah says yechayev, and that's because the nemola is a creature in its entirety. It's a birya on its own.